In light of ongoing circumstances, it is with a somber tone that we commence today's episode. Our heartfelt thoughts and utmost concern are with each and every one of you. We kindly remind our listeners, especially those of us joining from Florida, to remain ever vigilant and prioritize your safety as we navigate the presence of the menacing man-eating Nile crocodiles. Hello and welcome to the Bravo Outsider Podcast. I'm your host, Craig Midwinter, and with me, as always, is my co-host, Dylan Ferguson. Dylan, how's it going?
Oh, pretty good. Coasted on not very much sleep last night, but doing just fine. I'm going to get all the energy I need from thinking about these incredible, explosive episodes.
Oh, yeah. It was a fantastic week of television. Unfortunately, our scheduled guest today is sheltering in place from the crocodiles, so he's not able to join us, but it's our duty to you as a listener to give our hot takes on this.
Yeah, as hard as it is, especially after a crocodile ate Söze the horse, we still have to soldier on. You know what? Honestly, I would. I was thinking about if we are outsider and then how much you would feel like Bear Grylls thrown out of a helicopter to just watch two season finales, wrapping up so much drama. It would be so disorienting.
I know. I was gonna apologize in advance because especially this episode of Vanderpump Rules without context, be like you would have such whiplash. I feel like it was amazing television, but you definitely need at least the context of the happenings of the season.
Yeah, they didn't even really bother to establish the characters the way they normally did. They're just like, this one is for people who know exactly what's going on.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Let's dive right into Vanderpump Rules. I feel like this whole episode, it was so raw and everything was just laid bare. I thought it was so compelling.
Yeah, no, honestly, incredible. Amazing episode. I would say that the quality of the filmmaking was a little rough compared to some of them in terms of the camera setups where seemed very basic. They seem to have kind of rushed it with a skeleton crew, but the content that we get, the emotional content, like you said, was brutal and so much a much deeper soul searching than what you normally get in the episodes. And it was great. One of my favorite episodes of the show ever, which makes it one of my favorite episodes of a show ever, because as I've said before, this is my favorite show ever.
Yeah, no, it was crazy to have it juxtaposed against last week's episode. I think that, like you said, last week's episode, it was so much more polished, and I feel like it was very narratively strong and very tied to the season's arc as a whole. And this episode is definitely a bit removed, but you do need that context. It felt like kind of very polar opposites in terms of the spectrum of storytelling that you get on reality TV. And like you said, this is not, it doesn't have the production quality that you see a lot on Vanderpump Rules. Like Vanderpump Rules and most Bravo shows are very polished, and this was kind of the production quality of a Pawn Stars level reality TV show. But the content was it was so emotional and raw and compelling that I don't think that hurt it at all.
No, not at all. It helped it. It made it feel extra documentarian.
Yeah. Okay, so where this episode it kicks off, it opens with the "Watch What Happens Live" clip where Andy asks which Tom is hotter, and we get this emphasized look at the reaction from Raquel as she's kind of let her mask down and said that Sandoval is hotter Tom, and it is so amazing to me that this coincided. This was the night that shit went down and Sandoval ended up breaking the next day. I just thought that the way that this episode was introduced was really amazing.
Yeah, it was lots of fun. I really loved the timestamps on just introducing when everything happens, establishing a timeline. Just very over dramatic. I love how over dramatic it is.
Yeah, and I also really appreciate how we got this really like serious. I love when they do like the serious, like hard nosed, almost like Dateline type edit of things. And
Yeah.
then it goes into this intro with shots of like LA in a sun shower with this like the sun keeps shining music.
Yeah, a bit of whiplash. uh,
And we open like right on Ariana and being like supported by her friend Meredith, with Tom kind of just lumbering around the house that they share still with his AirPods in. Just really like thick tension in the air, and I loved how that was communicated to us as a viewer. Like, you could just feel that tension. They didn't have to do much to get that across. It was
yeah.
just thrust upon you, and you felt like Meredith in the room. I love that there was this proxy for us as a viewer in Meredith, just like dealing with this heavy situation, and being in the thick of the emotion, and having to deal with the awkwardness.
You empathize with the camera people, being like, "Oh shit, do I really got to be in the room with them now? They don't want me
Yeah.
here. Fuck."
Yeah, I want to leave with Meredith.
Yeah.
Meredith like leaves and asks Ariana if like she wants anything, and she says no. And then the next thing that happens is Tom asking Ariana if she wants anything, and she does want something from him. She wants him to die.
Yeah, amazing scene. Really, the conversation though was just that Tom and Ariana have. I thought was incredible. I mean, we've had a couple good breakup or post breakup conversations this season, which I've highlighted when they've come up, but this one kind of takes the cake. Very a very raw example of like both trying to express the way so that you feel in that situation, and like trying to talk around it when you can't express what you feel. I guess it was very relatable. I thought very real. Good
Yeah.
stuff.
And I thought that Ariana, like watching this, she was giving a very like practice this speech in the shower energy about
Yeah,
the way that she was delivering it.
she had
But
lines that were definitely pre-prepared,
yeah, but
which is
I
fair.
oh yeah, and also like who doesn't? Who doesn't go into a situation like this where they have to deal with the fallout of like a breakup or whatever without rehearsing how they're gonna like what they're going to say, and like composing themselves before. And I obviously, like, that's just, you're human, that's how you operate. But like
Sure.
whenever I do something like that, I always am fumbling over my words, and like I don't come across, and she is able to like execute like an assassin on the things that she wants to say and come across. And maybe that's just being this like media trained personality that gives her those skills. But I wish that my like shower speeches came across half as well.
Well, she also has like the righteousness that comes with being the victim in the situation, and I think that gives you a kind of clarity of purpose where you don't really doubt what you're saying as much.
Yeah, and Tom makes every effort to turn that around on her. Like, he tries to like cut at that leverage by saying how unhappy they were in the relationship, which is maybe true, but you see Tom as this like manipulator here, and someone who is probably usually very skilled at manipulating things and turning situations around so that they are the victim and they have the leverage. But here, Ariana is very resistant against that.
Sure. I mean, she's not willing to engage with his arguments, which is fair. She doesn't have to. It's kind of her right in that situation to not. I do think Tom does a pretty good job trying to express his mindset, which of course she doesn't want to hear at that moment. But I feel like he's doing a decent job trying to be honest with his own feelings and his own reasons, even if they're obviously not reasons that are going to make sense to her. I thought he was digging pretty deep into honesty in a lot of the scenes in this episode. I actually, I liked Sandoval more than I ever have in these moments. As weird as that
Really?
sounds, yeah, just because I thought we saw more of his like pressure points, more of what like actually scares him. The deep seated fears and insecurities that that are kind of being there's a light being cast on them.
Yeah, I think his motivations and his like, yeah, like it's a fear based thing. He doesn't come out and say it's like full blown like a midlife crisis, but
more or less.
every all the words that he's saying kind of communicate that.
Well,
And
yeah, he straight up says like I turned 40 and like felt washed up and I needed to get my mojo back somehow. Like
yeah,
he pretty much puts it in those in a midlife crisis language.
yeah, yeah, exactly. I think like I don't, I didn't really feel sympathy. Like I, all along, I've been all through this season. I feel like I have been very sympathetic towards Raquel, at least. Um, Sandoval, I didn't like gain a lot of sympathy for him watching this episode, to be completely honest. And I felt that some of the scenes where he was like putting on the waterworks and crying came across as a little fake. Like he was, I don't, it just kind of seemed a little timed, especially when he's at like Villa Rosa and crying to Lisa and seeming like he's like faking a panic attack. He didn't sell it to me.
Maybe I'm just more gullible than you are, but I don't think he's a good enough of an actor for that. I bought it. I thought that this was a guy that was really going through a crisis. And again, maybe that's just my susceptibility, but I saw him as a person in real crisis,
Yeah.
not the most sympathetic person in the situation because he's the person who did this. He's not the victim. So not saying that in terms of judging his actions, but in terms of like him being in a really rough emotional situation, I was actually kind of sympathizing with that.
Yeah. I want to get back a little bit to Ariana in this scene because
Yeah.
she definitely did seem like I felt more sympathetic to her.
Oh, for
I
sure.
feel like a bit later in this episode we got a clip where it's Jax calling out Tom and Ariana's relationship as being like a bit of a facade, and that is a perspective that I definitely like bought into watching this season. The fact that they were almost pretending to be a couple and like their relationship was more of a brand than an actual honest relationship. But then watching this scene, that that completely went away. Like you could feel that Ariana did actually love Tom. Like
Yeah.
she says like I would follow you anywhere. I would change anything about myself. And the way that she says that, you like I bought it completely.
Yeah, and what really affected me was she says something like, "I wish I didn't miss him," and now I feel like what I miss isn't real. And I thought that was a great encapsulation of what is so painful about ending a long-term relationship abruptly.
Yeah.
The idea that you lose a big part of yourself because so much of your personality and identity is wrapped up in another person, but also it becomes like a retcon of your own history. Like it feels
Yeah.
like so much of your past life has been
Is colored by
undercut,
that.
has
Yeah.
been colored by that, and it feels less real, like she says. Like it feels like it's fake. Like so much that was so real to you, that was so important to you for so long, suddenly feels like it's been retroactively edited into something that's not real. And that's a very, very harmful thing to have to internalize. That's really, really hard to deal with. So that was kind of the line that really drove home the relatability of the pain she's going through right now.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And Ariana had like so many great lines during this conversation. Like she could start a James May t-shirt line with all these sayings on them. Like I regret ever loving you. Any last words before we never speak again type thing. Like so amazing.
Yeah,
Uh, but next, Sandoval goes over to Tom Schwartz, and we get another very emotional scene by two people with a very long term relationship.
sure. And it's meaningful that Sandoval kind of can't say I'm sorry to Ariana and can't stop saying it to Tom Schwartz.
Yeah,
Uh, because, it's no secret. That's the real the relationship on the show. Like this is the most loving relationship that's between these two guys. So it's you kind of see that in this scene, how that I think Sandoval feels absolutely gutted about what's happened, what he has done to his relationship with Ariana, but he's also really emotional about having betrayed Schwartz's trust, because those dudes love each other and support each other throughout their worst moments.
Yeah, I think one thing that we see during the course of this season is that like Schwartz and Sandy's the bar is this like physical manifestation of this love between Tom Schwartz and Tom Sandoval,
Yeah,
and
totally.
how often it gets used as a device in that way is really compelling to me.
Hmm.
Like we see how Tom Schwartz has kind of let this be the crux of his like breakup with Katie. Um, but really, like we have seen this relationship between Tom Sandoval and Tom Schwartz like erode at the relationship between Tom Schwartz and Katie for so long, and um, so to see this conversation where they are talking about they're really talking about their relationship when they are talking about the bar and their concern
Hmm.
for it. And Schwartz is saying, we went from 4.8 stars on Yelp to 1, and like yeah, the bar did, but also people's view of them as this like goofy like duo, this like uh guy friendship goals type
Yeah.
persona that they have put out there has gone from 4.8 stars to 1 as well.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's something that Schwartz complains about when he's talking to Katie, too. Like, they have invested a lot of money and also their reputations in this. And yeah, it's a great point. Do you feel like the bar is the physical manifestation of everything that they've invested in each other? Their conception of themselves, their time. It's like this space where they feel like it's holding all of this, and if Sandoval just kind of kicked it over and spilled it out, it's painful for both of them.
Yeah, and I think that like Schwartz was a lot more complicit in like hiding this than he is, trying to
Oh, for
get
sure.
credit for.
Yeah,
Um
people who are like willing to fess up to what they've done rarely start talking about man-eating crocodiles when the questions put to them.
but it did seem like I did get a little bit of a sense of like betrayal from like
Yeah,
Schwartz was feeling betrayed, and I don't know that he is entitled to that feeling really, because he was along for the ride like clearly, and he's not even very good at covering up the fact that he has known for a long time. He's like, well, you had a game plan, you just didn't put it into action, and stuff like this. And
yeah,
he's looking for a bit more of an apology than Sandoval is like willing to give him. And I think he's looking for more of an apology than he's actually entitled to. And Sandoval just gives him, well, stay off social media. Like,
yeah. No, yeah, I get that Schwartz feels betrayed, but you're right. He's like totally Sandoval's been like confiding to him this whole time, like that game plan comment demonstrates. So I mean, yeah, he's known what's been going on the whole time.
yeah. And I mean, just like some of the nonsense like timeline that you get out of Tom Schwartz, or that we've gotten in various interviews and like the preview clips for the reunion, and then this, nothing matches. And like I couldn't think of a worse co-conspirator like to try to like cover things up. Schwartz just cannot hold it together.
Oh yeah.
But then we get like an amazing scene where Ariana's back at their shared house and she's surrounded by a bunch of friends, including like Logan, the Tom Tom server.
Yeah. Um, yeah, good to know that she's well supported. And even Sheena and Katie are going to bury the hatchet for her.
Yeah, I thought that this was really really funny. Like as soon as Katie walks in, Sheena's like, I think we can agree to like put our shit aside right now, and they're
Yeah.
like all in as a team together.
Yeah.
Um, But we also got the breaking of the penis flute in this scene to like a smattering of golf applause.
Yeah, that was pretty weird moment.
But one of the most notable like takeaways from this scene for me was like getting Sheena's point of view on this alleged altercation that happened between her and Raquel after Watch What Happens Live. The source of the restraining order that Raquel had placed against her, where she claimed that Sheena hit her. But as we
Yeah.
all know, it's scientifically impossible for Sheena to make a fist.
Scientifically impossible. Yeah, those those nails are always on. And it's just like if I put my thumb inside, I'd break my thumb. Well, you can put it outside. I
Yeah.
mean, you don't have to put it inside.
I mean, I don't think she like convinced me of what she was intending to like convince me as a viewer of, but she did convince me that she didn't like throw a punch. Like I don't believe
No.
that she like can't throw a punch, but I believe that she doesn't like know how to throw a punch after like hearing this
Yeah.
confessional.
Yeah. I mean, it also like it's kind of academic, isn't it? Whether it's like a punch or a scratch or a push, like whatever. You did a physical assault of some sort or other.
Yeah. The scene wasn't like particularly like emotionally dense, I don't think, but it did help like flesh out the timeline of how things happen, both um immediately following Sandoval with like our Scandoval with what happened after Watch What Happens Live. And also we get some insight into like the very start of this affair and having it happen like right after girls' night on the during the like the guys' night that we saw during this season.
Yeah.
And hearing that Raquel and Tom fucked in her car, and then he didn't have a key to get into the house, so he had to ring the doorbell right after, and Ariana had to let him into the house. Like it doesn't make the act any worse, but it makes it more real and like definitely gives you like a pit in your stomach, like thinking
Oh yeah.
about that. You feel dirty.
Oh yeah, I mean, I can see Sandoval's perspective and imagine like how he feels like ringing on the door afterwards and
Yeah,
just like feeling like he's crawling through barbed wire after he did that.
like
But
probably like smelling like sex in a car.
yeah, yeah, and but it is pretty interesting to find out that it happened for the first time, like kind of right after Raquel came back from that disastrous girls trip, where uh, where everybody was treating her like shit, and, and then she just goes and sleeps with one of the guys. It's like that's one way to get
Yeah,
back on your feet.
yeah, for sure. And yeah, watching those girls trip episodes, like that's kind of a low point for Raquel in terms of like how she's probably feeling about herself and her
For sure.
ability to like fit in. And so you can kind of see how she would be, looking for some sense of security within the group, and
Hmm.
you know that might motivate her or make her more like susceptible to like Tom Sandoval's advances.
Oh yeah, for sure. She needed something to shore up her sense of self, which was deeply shaken, I'm sure, after that.
What did you think about the next scene that we got with at James and Allie's?
Uh just James getting on my nerves again. Yeah. Oh man, when he says something like, "It scares me how people can do this." Shut up, dude. What are you talking about? This guy's been on the show about people cheating on each other for years, and he wants to tell Allie like, "I'm shook to my core. Somebody cheated on somebody." and and just like what he does, like he calls Raquel like on speakerphone with everybody around him,
Amazing.
absolutely delighted that he gets to do his favorite thing in the world, be really mean to a woman, and have everybody not be angry at him for it for once, but actually be applauding him for it. So happy he gets to
Yeah,
do that.
this was like an amazing moment for me because I feel like viewers are just like wanting some sort of like catharsis. They're wanting someone to like chew into Raquel. They want someone to be petty. They want someone to be childish. And like James is like the
Here's your
perfect
man.
person. Yeah, exactly. And he gets to go and do it like gleefully.
Yeah.
And it was, it was just amazing to watch this happen. And he gets to be like this like mean junior high girl, like calling someone they don't like to make them feel shitty about themselves when they're already probably feeling really shitty about themselves.
Yeah. The James Kennedy specialty. Yeah.
Up next, we had the scene at Raquel's where we, I think it's the only time that we actually saw Raquel during this.
Yeah, yeah. I think we only get the one scene. I mean, in a couple confessional moments, I guess. Um, happy to see the galaxy light come back
Yeah.
again. Another great use of it when it's like kind of dim, where Sandoval like slouched on one edge of her kitchen, and then he's like, "Ah, dude, can we turn the lights off in here?"
Yeah.
And then it's like, when he turn the lights down, then the galaxy is not just on her but on him too.
Yeah.
And this washed up 40-year-old gets to feel a little slight bloom again at his darkest moment.
Yeah, I really love this like lights going off as kind of the galaxy narrowing on them. Their galaxy got
Oh yeah,
quite a bit smaller after these events, but they're
yeah,
still,
totally.
together. They're the only ones under it. It was amazing to see the galaxy light come back and to
Yeah,
see that, narrative get tied up nicely.
yeah, yeah, for sure.
We also found out that Raquel's mom hates Tom Sandoval. So,
Have we
and
ever
then
seen Raquel's mom on the show? I'm trying to think. I don't
no, I
think so.
don't think so. Yeah,
No.
not that I can remember. Um, and Tom says that his family loves her, which Raquel thinks he's saying, "I love you," and she says, "Oh, I love you too."
Yeah, and then he's like, "I said my family, but I love you."
Yeah.
He definitely was not expecting to have to say that on camera, but kind of got backed into it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was pretty funny.
Yeah, and then next we had a scene with like Ariana at Villa Rosa. And we got another one of these scenes later with Tom at Villa Rosa. What did you think about Lisa's perspective in comparison, comparing the two scenes?
Um, I haven't really. I thought that Lisa has had a pretty weird season. I mean, I've got my pet theory that I think Lisa is kind of the real villain of the show, and I think if you want to take that perspective, uh, you could look at the fact that she's willing to forgive Sandoval, which should be no surprise. She's willing to forgive everybody in her little nest. Like, she's forgiven Jax and James each a bunch of times for the various indiscretions they've done. Um, and on the one hand, she does have a more mature perspective, obviously, so she can kind of, I think, see a longer view and see that maybe this idea that like Sandoval and Ariana are never going to speak again isn't like totally realistic. Like, they'll probably, or there's a good chance they'll just become friends eventually. It might take a while again, but
Yeah.
that's often what happens after a long-term relationship, and that's, I think, fine and good and healthy. Um, so I'm not like going to completely get furious at Lisa for suggesting that there might be some kind of reconciliation down the road, and that Sandoval shouldn't be thrown out of the group, because that's kind of my perspective too, in the sense that all of these people have cheated before,
Yeah.
and that's that's a thing that's happened many times, and it's going to keep happening with this group, and to act
That's
as
the
a
foundation of the show,
it
really.
is the foundation of the show, and that's one of the things that makes me feel kind of insane when people are acting so hysterically about this particular cheating. It kind of
Yeah.
feels at a certain point like people went to a boxing match and were like, "Oh my god, those men are hitting each other." Like, yeah, you sat down and watched an episode of the show where people cheated each other. This is season 10. Welcome. um, but I think Lisa's ultimately is just like interested in and keeping the gang together, and will like make whatever gestures of like, oh, I'm horrified by your action temporarily,
Yeah.
that she needs to before moving on, like she's done again and again and again throughout the show. She's never really shown, I don't think, any kind of clear moral principle at any stage when
Oh,
dealing with
yeah.
these people.
Yeah, it's interesting. And this week it also came out that like Ariana has said that she does not want to like come back and film with Tom Sandoval and Raquel in the upcoming season. And Bravo like hates ultimatums, and I mean, I'm curious as to what you think or how you think this should be dealt with, because um I feel like this is kind of a misplay from Ariana. I think that right now, yes, she has a lot of support behind her because obviously people are sympathetic towards her. But for the health of the show, like that conflict is so important. And I feel like Tom Sandoval and Raquel are, more important to the show now than Raquel is. And, there's two different ways that she could have gone about handling this. One is saying, I don't want to film with them. The other is like uses us as an opportunity to go on your revenge tour, go on like, you know, just like really build up this sympathy behind you and come out swinging. And I was pretty dissatisfied to see that she took this approach of, kind of stonewalling.
um Yeah, I mean, if she just doesn't want to participate in the show anymore, fair. That's fine if that's what
Yeah.
she really wants. Um, if it's like more important to her to like build the brand or whatever, then from that perspective, I guess like yeah, it might be a mistake because the show would probably just go on without her. And it, and Sandoval and Raquel could be the new power couple at the show. You know, that's not unthinkable. It could happen, right?
Yeah.
Um, but if she just doesn't, just wants like for personal non uh, publicity related reasons, would rather just disengage from the whole thing, then that's totally understandable too.
Yeah, for sure. We also got a scene where Tom Schwartz comes to Katie's apartment to drop off the dogs because they still have a custody sharing arrangement over these dogs.
Yeah.
This was an amazing scene to me. I love like Katie being like, "I need to talk to you about this," and then like Tom being like, "Oh yeah, can I have a Coke?" And then just goes and grabs a Coors Light.
Yeah, I noticed that too. He's like, "You got a Coke or something?" And I'm like, "You don't want a Coke, man." And then immediately there's a beer. I'm like, "Yeah, that's what I thought. Why did you say Coke?" It's just like saying, "Yeah, I knew a month ago what I knew 7 months ago." Like, just say it first. Like
Yeah,
she's got to know like 2 minutes later. So just say it at first. Say I want a beer, and I knew 6 months ago.
yeah,
Just say it off the bat. It'll go better for you.
yeah. This was like a particularly interesting scene for me because I feel like there was a dynamic between Katie and Tom Schwartz that we like. I can't remember ever seeing on this show where Katie actually has like some leverage that she can use more like calculated, whereas usually she has to be like more emotional, or she responds more emotionally. Here she's, like a dogged investigator, like trying to grill Tom Schwartz about what and when he knew.
Uh, yeah, and she gets to have the upper hand there, and and Schwartz gets to just like flop around like a fish on a kitchen counter, which is just kind of funny. Uh,
Yeah, and I think she like it was interesting when she called him like Tom Sandoval's bitch boy, because that's really the look that we're seeing from Tom Schwartz this entire episode. Like
sure.
his response is to, just be um, Tom Sandoval's Tom Sandoval's bitch boy.
Yeah, which is what he's always been. It's just now that he's facing the consequences of that for the first
Yeah,
time. He's always been like happy to have that be part of his public persona. Is like I'm the guy riding in the sidecar. I'm the sidekick buddy, and we're
yeah,
adorable. We're the goofy straight dude couple, straightish dude couple. You know, like we're uh and uh and he's just happy to have that be part of his identity. And now he has to to see the danger of tying himself to one guy like that.
Yeah, it's interesting that like I feel like Tom Sandoval looks at his relationships as like brands, or tries to like brand all of his relationships, and I think that's something that he's really good at. Like Tom and Ariana have this brand. Tom and Tom have this brand together, and that's something that he is like actively cultivating. But then once you take an action as like a personal person, that there's repercussions for, that immediately tarnishes those brands, and so you see Tom Schwartz now experiencing the fallout for this, and not really knowing how to avoid the consequences of the actions of someone else. Because Tom Schwartz is really good at avoiding the consequences of his own actions. He knows how to do that. He knows how to like navigate those situations, but he's completely at a loss as how to navigate the consequences of Tom Sandoval's actions,
Mm-hmm.
and he's trying to deflect anything that comes in. Like, well, I didn't do anything wrong. It's like, well, buddy, like you did by proxy,
Yeah.
and now all the things that you actually did wrong during uh, this whole timeline, that is getting emphasized due to the fact that your brand is so tied to Tom Sandoval.
Yeah, and it reminds me a little bit of way back at the start of the season when Lala is grilling Schwartz for like going to play pickleball with Randall, and he's like, "Well, he's got a pickleball court, and I wanted to play or something." And it's
Yeah.
like at a certain point, you gotta realize that like you may be like, "I'm not doing anything wrong," but you're like making choices to like associate with people and support people that are doing bad things, and you can't just like keep being like whoop whoop just a florpy doopy puppy who can't adult today, like through all of these situations. Like you're getting pretty old to do that all the time, man.
What did you think of the return of Kristen Doty?
Happy to have her back. Feels great to have her back. I did think the return was a bit of a letdown,
Yeah, me too. I
just
was.
because she didn't do much. You know, she showed up, she showed support. It was cute. It was nice when she shows up and Ariana's like, "Can I get you anything? A water?" And she's like, "An alcohol." And she's like, "One alcohol." That was cute. When they have a little hug and they're like, "Our ex-boyfriend," and it was nice. It was sort of sweet, but she didn't really do anything. She burns a little piece of paper, like the most like minimal like TikTok witch ritual that I've ever seen. Like very
Yeah,
low effort. I guess when I knew that Kristen was coming back, and when they gave her a very dramatic walk on, I thought maybe she would talk to Sandoval. I thought maybe she would
yeah,
confront
that's
somebody,
what I was hoping
but
to.
there was
Yeah,
no confrontation. She was just there to show a bit of support, which is nice, which is cute, but not the explosive return of Kristen that you might have hoped to see.
yeah. I was really hoping that we would get like the crazy Kristen, where she's like, after getting like fired up by seeing how emotional Ariana is, like chasing down, finding where Tom Sandoval is, and like
Yeah,
confronting him.
yeah, I expect
Really
her to
disappointed.
yeah, I expected her to act like like Batman coming out of retirement or something, be like, "Now's when the people need me most." Like, you called me an unhinged vigilante before, now is when my services are required.
Yeah.
But but no, maybe they didn't want just to have that on the show. Maybe she's just mellowed with age, but it was definitely not what I was kind of hoping it would be. If she comes back for next season, that would be very welcome though, because I advocate for general amnesty. I want everybody back,
Yeah.
without excusing what they've done. They were fired for very good reason and deserve to
Yeah.
be fired. I still want them back though.
Yeah. That's another thing, that like watching these episodes where we get old clips, just seeing Stassi, who was, like you said, fired for a very good reason, but she was so good on the show. Like she
Amazing.
was a very great reality
One of the
TV
best to ever do
personality.
it. I
Yeah.
love Stassi. Amazing
Yeah. You
personality.
kind of like forget, like having her gone, you forget how good she was, and
Hmm.
it would be amazing to get her back.
Yeah, and Jax too. Bring them all back
Yeah.
and make Miami Girl a cast
I
member.
I could do without Brittany again, to be honest. Like I
Yeah,
I feel like Brittany actually holds Jax back, and maybe if they were to reduce her role, because I actually felt this way about like Brock last season with Sheena. I felt like Sheena didn't really like shine, and she wasn't able to like make things happen and operate in the same way that she normally is really effective at doing with Brock in the picture. Um, and I feel that way about Brittany too. Like Brittany has given us some like really iconic moments. Basically, every time she yells "rot in hell,"
That
but
was a good Brittany.
like,
Wow.
yeah, I know. But I still think like I don't know. She takes the edge off of Jax a bit, and that's just kind of unfortunate to see.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, Jax might be taking the edge off himself just because he's getting older, but probably not. I don't know. It would be something to see where everybody's at. A few years later since the last time we've seen them. But just idle speculation. I don't think we're ever going to get that.
Yeah. Well, this episode ends with two amazing scenes. The first one is the funeral on the rooftop. I thought it was amazing that everyone is like dressed in black, and then Ariana comes in. That had to have been
Yeah.
coordinated, but it was just like visually very striking. And one of the things that I love about Vanderpump Rules and Bravo shows in general is like
Mhm.
there is this like visual storytelling that you can really read into and analyze. They take the care to like
Yeah.
do that sort of thing. And
Totally.
I thought it was amazing.
Yeah, and that like fucking Gustav Klimt ass dress that Ariana was wearing, gorgeous. That was an amazing dress. Wow. Just
Yeah,
just had to.
Ariana is like leaning into the revenge dresses, like the reunion
Yeah.
dress. Like anytime that she's posting on social media, like she's really going for that, like um, Lady Diana revenge dress moment.
Yeah, except their dresses are actually good, unlike Lady Diana's dresses.
Yeah. um but yeah, everyone says, "Oh, this feels like a funeral, or it looks like a funeral." And um they immediately like are talking like it's the funeral of Tom Sandoval, but it's actually the funeral of Tom Schwartz, because I think he is like the final knife in Tom Schwartz happens during this scene when he shows up and has his like one-on-one conversation with Ariana.
Uh, yeah, I mean, he must have known that what he was walking into at that point, but wanted to get his screen time in all the same. Tried to, yeah, tried to show that he was on the right team, which wasn't going to work. Nobody was going to buy that.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, and I love that it seemed like his motivation wasn't to console Ariana even. He went in with the motivation to defend the bar and be like, we built a family there, blah 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 blah. And Ariana's like, well, he like fucked over your family. He wasn't thinking about your family when he was doing
yeah,
this. Um, and I feel like he was actually a little bit shocked and taken aback when he realized the severity of the emotions that Ariana felt towards him, and she's like, "You know what? I'm not your friend anymore." Like that, I feel cut him, because if there's one
yeah,
thing that Tom Schwartz wants, it's to be liked. It's to be
yeah,
people's friends, and that is his whole personality. And to see that get shattered, not just off camera but on camera, get that that pane of glass broken. I think it actually shook him to his core.
yeah. I think so. And Schwartz and Ariana have always seemed to get along really well too. So I can understand why that was like very shocking for him. He should have seen it coming, but they always had such like a chummy like collegial relationship. Like they were like frat roommates or something, and so I think it was kind of a knife in his chest that he should have anticipated but didn't fully prepare himself for.
Yeah, I am curious about like how Ariana actually viewed the relationship between Tom Sandoval and Tom Schwartz during the course of the relationship, because Katie couldn't hide her annoyance at it. I feel like Ariana must have felt some way about it over the course of things, but both her and Tom Sandoval were very careful about protecting this like facade of being this perfect relationship. Like, so I'm pretty curious to see, you know, what her actual emotions are towards Tom Schwartz. And she did seem like very not quick to like cut him, but she was um, very quick to like give her opinion to him, and she was like not buying any of his shit.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
And then the final scene, and it was interesting that they chose to end on this. Um, I get that, like in the narrative, it happened 2 weeks later, but really they didn't need to identify that because I think that it didn't need that kind of preface. But we saw Tom Sandoval going over to Sheena and Brock's place and having a one-on-one with Sheena, and this is actually one of the most like impactful scenes out of this whole episode, which is not what I was expecting.
Yeah, yeah. I wasn't expecting Sheena and Sandoval to be like such an emotional moment, but Sheena was so raw there, and that was a very intense scene. Like Sheena felt seemed so real and so raw that she was devastated that she's losing a good friend too. Someone who, like she says, was always a booster for her since she started doing the show, and that's what's one thing that's really sad about this is if they do all feel that now like this is a schism that's going to last forever. It's like it's all these relationships that are going to be broken, and I don't think that has to be the case. Even if people don't want to hear that right now, I think
Yeah,
like you can be really furious at somebody you've had a long-standing relationship for something they've done and still realize down the road that that doesn't mean that they can't be part of your life at all if you're getting something important from that relationship in your life. And I think there was that one discussion in Ireland and New Housewives of Jersey like a few weeks ago that we talked about, which was we mentioned then how it was an interesting contrast, just showing like kind of a more mature perspective from slightly older people towards like making those decisions about
yeah.
when somebody betrays you, about what it's actually worth to cut them out of your life completely versus trying to maintain some form of relationship or reestablish some form of relationship down the line. And the point is that those are choices that you can make, even if in the moment you feel like you're not allowed to make that choice, that you only have one choice, which is like complete schism and separation forever. Um, I just think, yeah, we really feel the weight of feeling that this has to be a final split that will last the rest of your life in this moment between Sandoval and Sheena, who
Yeah.
is not the person he was in a relationship, who's not the person he directly betrayed, but who is somebody who has appreciated his friendship and now feels that through his reckless actions, he's destroyed her friendship as well.
Yeah, I think like this is kind of the emotion that you would almost expect from Tom Sandoval and Tom Schwartz, like a conversation to like
Hmm.
happen. It felt like that level of betrayal. And yeah, like you said, like Tom Sandoval and Sheena, like they do go way back to the beginning of this, and to see how much it has deeply affected Sheena, and she is almost more emotionally raw, or equally as emotionally raw as Ariana
Hmm.
with Tom Sandoval. And this is like 2 weeks removed from the scene that we got between Ariana and Tom at the beginning of this. It was like very powerful, and I loved that Sheena like didn't hold back or didn't like um allow herself to be manipulated by Sandoval when he's trying to be like, oh well, we weren't happy, and she's like, oh well, so you fucked her best friend, like
Hmm.
I loved how emotionally strong Sheena was through this. And yeah, I think you mentioned the impact of infidelity, and I think one of the things about like Scandival that I don't really love. I think overall it's a net benefit to the show, but it has like created a black and white point of view on things in a way that we don't usually see in reality television. Like
Hmm.
people operate in like grays and things are nebulous and in flux, and people can redeem themselves and you see kind of a nuanced perspective. But with Scandival, everyone is like, boom, like Raquel and Tom Sandoval are evil, Ariana is good. This is like a clear cut, almost fictional morality tale type
Yeah,
point of view that we have to take on this. And we've seen like Lala especially like hitching up herself to this wagon and like building this like send it to Daryl brand, and really like trying to leverage that. And obviously a good reality TV personality is going to leverage whatever momentum they can, but
yeah,
I do worry that the meta has created a environment that is going to be difficult to overcome and persist this this friendship and like this group dynamic, because people are so tied to being on the good side and
yeah.
not wanting to reconcile with the bad side.
Totally, I agree completely, and I think that's yeah, that is the negative consequence of the way this is being read. I think is that I love the way that reality TV um, never conforms well to like good versus evil narratives, because you see everybody as a bunch of people, relatable, messy, fucking up, being stupid, but being like recognizably, lovably, sloppily human.
Yeah,
And I think we see plenty of that in this season, which is why it's been a great season to me. But the insistence that that people, viewers, have to reacting to it as an extreme, like almost like Maoist reading of like good people and bad people, there can be no sympathy allowed in there, is really unfortunate. And it's just one of the unfortunate consequences, I think, of like fandom in general. And that's something I think we'll maybe talk about in another episode, but it's the thing that I like least. And seeing people like devolve into like hate mobs over this, and trying to attack more nuanced takes because they're not sufficiently in line with like the prevailing dogma, is just like a really unfortunate way to engage with the show. And I think if
yeah,
anybody wants to engage with it that way, I mean, live your life, do whatever you want, you know, read it however you want. That's the fun of it. But
yeah,
I think I would want to remind people to think about like why you started watching the show in the first place, because it probably wasn't to join an online hate mob. It was
yeah.
probably because is you were entertained by these people, you found them funny and frustrating but
And messy.
relatable
Yeah,
and messy, and you enjoyed just the experience of shared humanity
yeah,
that you get from it. And and I think you probably enjoyed that a lot more than you enjoy going online and calling somebody you don't even know a cunt. So maybe just remember that part. Remember why you hitched your wagon to this show in the first place.
yeah. And I think like one of the things that comes to mind when I'm watching like this play out is there's a difference between like inexcusable behavior and like someone's inability to be like redeemed or like to have any sort of like coming back from this. Because yes, obviously Tom Sandoval's actions are inexcusable and like he should receive like negativity for that. But at the same time, like reality TV, like you said, it's like it's an exploration of humanity, and we need to allow for us to explore what it looks like to come back from this, and
Hmm.
see the long-term ramifications of this, but also see someone grow from it. It's something that we see constantly on reality TV, and this is just a very like magnified instance of it. So I really hope that it's not something that like ultimately prevents this show from going forward, because I think it opens up a lot of opportunity for very interesting human exploration.
Yeah, totally. And the show has done that again and again, has shown people do terrible things and betray each other, and then reconfigure into new relationships afterwards.
Yeah.
And it feels like everybody's treating this as something that's on a different scale from those other ones, and to a certain extent, that's understandable. Some of these relationships have been built over a longer period of time than previous relationships have. I kind of get to a certain extent why people are treating this as something different from other infidelities, but that doesn't mean that we should stop the project of watching people deal with the consequences of their actions and the consequences of other people's actions, and then figure out how to keep going and figure out how best to live their lives moving forward, because we've been watching these people do that for a long time, and it's been very instructive and interesting and fascinating, and I don't want it to stop.
Yeah, absolutely. Did you have any final thoughts on this episode before we move on to New Jersey?
uh no, not really. I think that's, I mean, yeah, we're gonna talk more about these people when we hopefully we'll do something or other to talk about the reunions, even though we don't normally do that. But I think it's going to be hard for us to ignore it, and we've been having discussions about that. So I don't think we're done talking about these people, but I think that's enough about this particular episode,
Yeah.
which again, just to underline, was an amazing episode of television. Just great
Oh
stuff.
yeah,
So good.
absolutely. This season of Vanderpump Rules has ranked up there in terms of like all the seasons of Vanderpump Rules. And I think Vanderpump Rules, it ranks up there not just with like great shows in reality TV, but just great television in general. Like fantastic.
Yeah.
We got to witness something very special.
Yeah.
So we get the season finale kind of Real Housewives of New Jersey here. This was billed as the season finale, but I guess there's a special coming out next week for Teresa's wedding. Um, but this was a fantastic episode of Real Housewives of New Jersey as well, I think.
Yeah, it was amazing how well I thought the one explosive party tied up multiple plot lines that have
Yeah,
felt like distant from each other all season long, but then seem to all be part of the same issue when it finally blows up in that one scene. So I thought that was an amazing finale for that reason.
yeah, you know how you like if you ever go out and like watch improv, they've got that. I think it's called the Herald, the format where they've got four different narratives that they're switching back and forth between scenes of, and then at the end they try to like tie them all together. It really felt like that. It felt like all of this is coming together at once and tying itself in a nice like neat bow at this one explosive fight.
Yeah.
Um, really really rewarding as a viewer to see that, because I didn't think that we would get the type of resolution that we seem to get in this finale.
Uh, but you didn't think we got a resolution?
No, I didn't expect to get
Oh
the type
yeah.
of resolution that
Yeah,
we did
yeah, me
get.
neither. What was so mind blowing to me is that when we finally get the airing out of this bit of gossip about Melissa being in the back of a car with somebody, maybe kissing somebody, when it finally does come out through Danielle, which is how we kind of expected it to,
Yeah,
since Jennifer seeded that information in Danielle, he'd become kind of the person whose job it seemed to be to eventually make it come out. But what blew my mind for me was the way it feels like you realize slowly that maybe Teresa's been the one who's been planning this thing all along.
yeah,
You know, for me, that was like when they put the question to Teresa during her confessional, and she's like, "Oh, I told them not to say it, but you can't really control what people do."
yeah.
And for me, that was like, I like dropped my mug and watched it fall in slow motion. That was like
Kaiser Söze.
that was the Kaiser Söze moment. That was the Kaiser Söze moment for me. I was like, oh my god, like I think she's been like pulling these strings all along, and I was just oblivious to it. I thought that Teresa was sort of out to lunch this season, and then when I see it, I'm like, no, these all go through her. All these like this bit of gossip. She's the one who's been manipulating this bit of gossip. It hasn't been Margaret. It hasn't been Jennifer Aiden. It hasn't been Danielle. She's the one who's been using all of them to try to make this come out at the right moment.
Yeah,
I thought that was
very
great.
like skillful, and
Mm-hmm.
it felt like, you know, two queens on a chessboard between Margaret and Teresa. Like that's retrospect, like that's a retrospective read that I got from
Yeah.
this after watching. And Marge even comes up to Teresa and's like, "Oh, you let your girls do this? Like this is how you let your camp go?" Very like mob boss, like
Yeah,
puppet
yeah,
master type conversation between the two sides.
yeah.
Really amazing.
Yeah, great stuff. And she did do it like really skillfully. Like she gets Melissa to blow up on her, so she gets to be in the position of being just reacting like, wow, you're exploding, and she
Yeah.
gets to seem like she didn't do a fucking thing. Like she
Yeah.
never dropped a single sentence. It was just everybody else was doing it on her behalf without necessarily knowing they were doing it on her behalf. Melissa gets to look unreasonable. Margaret gets to look unreasonable. She gets to look like just like, oh, what did I have to do this? I'm
Yeah.
just here. And it just showed that she's been playing a very masterful game all along, and it was lost on me. I was underestimating her this whole season.
Oh yeah, she's truly one of the greats, and I think she plays this like personality very effectively. I There's also like there was a mob boss who like pretended to be like to have like some sort of uh like mental illness, and like pretended to be, you know, he would like wander around in like slippers and a house coat, but he was actually the guy like pulling the strings behind the scenes, and he got away with this for like 30 years or something like that before people caught on that he was actually the one pulling the strings. I think Teresa plays that role like very well.
Yeah,
Like
totally.
she comes across as, you know, very aloof and you know, kind of just like operating on a scene by scene basis, but you watch her long enough, she's very calculated. Like this is a front. She is way smarter than she puts it on, and she knows how to like strategize and navigate these situations.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, great performance, and just a great final confrontation melee between multiple camps all converging together.
Yeah, for sure. What were your highlights from this party scene?
I love Jennifer Aiden getting really drunk. So I love that she was just really drunk, and like there's multiple shots of her trying to light up her fake prop cigarette.
Yeah.
Really funny. And then I mean, of course, we got to talk about fucking Louis. This guy is
Oh
going off the
yeah.
deep end. Oh my god, that was just a little foretaste the previous episode. What we get here is like full on wild, red faced, coked up Louis. Just like just a total character, like, and it's just
Yeah.
like the transition between how he was putting himself off like earlier in the season and now is just totally switching gears.
Yeah.
And wow, what a weird guy. So that's the thing where it's like I kind of feel like at the end of it, like, wow, Teresa like won the season after all, and then that almost gets like highlighted by like at the very end. It's like, and next time on Teresa gets married, like,
Yeah.
crowning the queen here. But it's like she won with a huge asterisk attached, and that asterisk is she's getting married to Louis. And
Yeah.
and
The
like,
Joker. Yeah.
yeah, and this is a very strange camp to be hitching yourself to. As much as I've said before, I've adored watching Louis as a character. He's been an amazing. He's taken me on an amazing ride, but
Yeah.
I don't know about getting married to this guy. That sounds very very dubious. We'll see how it plays out, but like it's almost like a postscript when we get at the end, when we have like a little sit down, and Louis like, I've been consulting with like famous private investigator Bo Deedle, and I
Yeah.
have information on everybody. And we're like, okay, that's a weird thing to say. Like, after a whole season of people being like talking about when it's appropriate to share information or seek information on other people, and then Louis just being like, yeah, by the way, I got doses on everybody. Like, what? You're gonna say that like right before the season ends? Like, where is this going? This is bizarre.
Bo Deedle knows things about everyone in this room. Yeah, I'm interested about this relationship between Louis and Teresa. Like, I think some of it, at least, is motivated by the fact, in order to operate on this show, you do like need a spouse. Like, you do need a partner in order to be truly effective. I feel like
I mean,
on Real
it's not the
Housewives of
Real
New
House
Jersey.
persons, right?
Yeah. But New Jersey, especially because there's that like strong family dynamic, and because
Right.
the husbands have this like, um, they've got a storyline of their own, and there's a like really important dynamic there. If you want to be, an effective part of this, you do need a confidant that is able to also operate in those situations to some degree and make things happen there. Because otherwise, if you don't have someone in there like mixing things up and being the agitator, that's just a situation where all of the other women who are playing the same chess game, they're able to execute moves via their partners at the same time that you don't have any say in. And as much as like we see when these guys get together, it's like fun, it's ball busting and all this. We got clips where there are pieces in motion and in play at these guys' night gatherings. We saw like Bill Aiden talking to Joe Gorga, being like, oh, that's your sister, like you need to be there. And like they're working when they're doing that. They're like
Mm-hmm.
executing things on behalf, like strategically on behalf of their wives. So to not have like a piece at that table, even if you aren't able to control them, but like you need someone there fighting on your behalf that like is going to be on your side. So I feel like there is some motivation there that is driving her to have,
Right.
have someone at that table. And she doesn't need to marry that person. I don't know why like she's doing that, but I feel like that at least initially motivated the relationship.
Yeah, that makes sense, that reading. And I shouldn't underestimate Teresa, because obviously I just did that,
Yeah.
and I can acknowledge my mistake. So that does make sense that she would want to like ally herself strongly with somebody who is willing and eager to get his hands dirty, when she, in a way that will allow her to keep her hands clean. Somebody
Yeah.
who will like go into the pit and do the dirty work, and she won't have to be seen as the person doing it, like how he was the one who gave the information to Joe, presumably on Teresa's behalf,
Yeah.
when Melissa's like, Teresa went and talked to Joe about this, and then Louis like, nope, I did.
Yeah.
There is when you can really see like the advantage of having him being like the henchman who
Yeah.
actually can like shoulder the blame and be the guy who actually does the stuff on her behalf, so she doesn't have to be seen as as doing inappropriate things.
Yeah, absolutely. Um yeah, I also loved, like you said, Jennifer Aiden getting really drunk here. I love that she was like, when she arrives at this, she's handed whiskey, and we get a clip of her at the last time she had whiskey on screen, and
Yeah,
her just like at the table, like dropping her fork in Ireland. And everyone starts getting messy like really early, and before Teresa even arrives, like all the men's faces are like beet red tomato, like that
yeah,
redness that you get when you're really loaded. And when Danielle pulls Jennifer aside, to talk. She's like, "Oh yeah, I'm immune to tequila," like, playing off that she's not drunk, but clearly like very drunk. And then Danielle's like, "Yeah, I'm gonna tell Melissa about the thing," and you can almost see like all the redness in Jen Aiden like drain. Like she was somehow not expecting this to like come out in this moment. I feel like she thought that she was like coasting free, but um and this is like sort of a backfiring of her plan to tell Danielle this. I feel like it wasn't exactly intended that Danielle would bring this out there with, you know as in as close proximity to her as she was expecting. But I think the position that she was in Ireland, she needed to like build capital, and she needed to like get Danielle on her side and in cahoots. So she was in a position where she needed to use that information, and she did. And like I think she actually did get off pretty scot free on the consequences, even though I don't think she was expecting this.
Yeah, I think the information drop was definitely foreseen by some people, to a certain extent, though to what extent I'm not sure. I think it was like at least a partially planned thing, and I think Melissa definitely either knew it was coming or suspected it was coming, because and from who it was going to be coming to, because you see her early on immediately talking to Danielle like, and what else do you have to say? Is there something else you want to tell me? Like
Yeah,
like she seems to know that like this is kind of supposed to be, this is being set up as the moment where the information comes out, and that it's going to come out from Danielle. That seems to be something that multiple people are aware of or suspect is the case.
yeah,
um and it didn't go too badly for Jen, I don't think, because Margaret ends up looking like very unreasonable in this episode, which she usually doesn't. I think like she really loses her cool in a way
yeah,
that plays to Jen's benefit, because that's kind of what she was agitating for all season long, was for people to see Margaret as being like vicious.
yeah,
uh, and I think she kind of gets that. She kind of gets that satisfaction of seeing Margaret look like the vicious person, which is what she kind of wants everybody to see her as at this moment. And for Danielle being the vehicle for this information, um, just I think a crowding moment for a great rookie season, because
yeah,
being the newbie on the show who is put in the position of being the person to like drop the bomb in the finale and be the one who puts the information out feels like kind of like a sacrificial lamb position. Like
yeah,
we're setting it up so you're the one who's gonna like bear the full force of anger, and that you're going to be the pawn that's going to be moved by that's going to be set up to be sacrificed for the queens like further back on the chessboard.
yeah.
And I think Danielle, instead of like just being a sacrificial piece there, like really held her own and like went toe to toe with Margaret in a strong way.
Yeah, I feel like Danielle wasn't actually obligated to like give this information up in terms of like the show. But I do think that this was going to come out with or without her if she didn't release it in this during this party. I think that you know Teresa would find a way, or Jen would find a way to make this, or the producers would find a way to make this happen. So like it would have taken like courage for Danielle to do this. And I think she needed to do it for the sake of like just securing her spot next season, to like come out and like prove to production that she can like make moves and make things happen and deal with the fallout in a really like dynamic, engaging way. And she did that. Like she was immediately like in the fight after this happened. She wasn't like trying to back away from it. And she even told Jen like, okay, you know what, I'm ready to be the person that this all
Yeah.
falls on. Like, and to Danielle's credit, we saw this scene where she was talking with Rachel and Melissa, I think, and Rachel's like, well, if you were in my position and I had said something about Jennifer Aiden, you would go back and tell her. You would rat her out too. And I think like Danielle proved that she didn't rat Jennifer out. Like, she proved that she's not a rat.
Yeah. I mean, I think like Melissa and everybody knew where it's coming from, but she makes a point of not saying it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Excellent. Great party move, Danielle, as Melissa shouted.
Yeah. I love when Marge blows out the line, "Low budget Betty," and Danielle immediately snaps back with "Old hag Nancy." Really funny.
And Melissa is like really, I don't think Melissa actually knew that it came from Jen. I feel like she thought that it came from Teresa, because Melissa's really driving at the like, who told you that, and Danielle like holds strong and is like, doesn't matter, Margaret said it.
Yeah.
And Melissa's like really looking for this to be like Teresa's fault. And Danielle is very strong and doesn't let that happen, which I thought was like really uncharacteristic of Housewives rookie season.
Yeah, totally.
And then we get the title cards at the end. I loved Rachel's card where she took a trip to Disney to hang out with her favorite rat, Mickey. Did you have any other highlights from Real Housewives of New Jersey?
No, I mean that about covers it. But wow, this was an amazing week of two incredible finales.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, I think that about does it for the show this week. Any final thoughts on this week going into next week with the reunion episodes of Vanderpump Rules?
Be nice to Raquel, people. She didn't do anything wrong. Raquel did nothing wrong. Yeah. That's my slogan. Raquel did nothing wrong. If the critics are going to be hardliners, I'm going to be a hardliner too. She's fine. Yeah. She's cool. Yeah. She did nothing wrong.
In fact, she's in the right in this situation.
Yeah.
Do you want to let everyone know where they can find you?
Find me writing about movies on Substack, Dylan Ferguson.
Awesome. As Dylan had mentioned earlier this episode, we are planning on doing some coverage of the Vanderpump Rules reunion.
Yeah.
We're going to release special episodes, hopefully on the Thursdays immediately following the reunions, with some of our previous guests getting their takes on it, with knowing what they know now about Vanderpump Rules. We'll see what their outsider turned insider perspective is. Well, that's been Bravo Outsider for this week. You can find us on Instagram and TikTok at Bravo Outsider. We're on Twitter at Bravo_Outsider. We're online, BravoOutsider.com, and anywhere you find your podcasts. You can also catch us on YouTube. Until next week, keep on wiping.
Keep on wiping.